Hi, it's Bill Schroeder with InTouch Practice Communications. Thank you for finding this video. Often when I'm talking to clients and prospective clients, the question comes up about transferring a website from one provider to the next. Most specifically, people are concerned about whether or not they lose any ground or SEO juice in the process. I wanted to bring along one of our resident experts, Carl, who is an SEO mastermind, to kind of answer some of those questions. So how are you today, Carl?
I'm doing good, Bill. How are you?
Great. Well, you heard the question, and it's basically, should people be concerned when they're transferring their website over?
Yeah, as with any kind of major change, as it is with actually transferring a website over to a new provider, a new agency, or a new company, there are certain things you kind of have to keep top of mind, right? You certainly don't want to lose any ground from where you're at right now. However, transferring your website over to another provider can lead to actually that losing ground and losing a lot of the work that's might have been done in the past, as well as kind of compromising your website's future in terms of SEO, rankings, usability, things like that.
I think it's a scare tactic that's used sometimes by providers. And it's unfortunate that that happens because from my position, I look at it like if we're going to offboard a client for one reason or the next, that we become the greatest partner in getting them over to the next agent.
Right.
And so we handle that with great pride and with great, care, obviously. But unfortunately, some people don't. Can you give us some tips to look for, some things that should be done to ensure that a practice doesn't lose any of that ground or SEO juice?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd probably say three things, right? So one is your existing redirects. Okay, I'll explain what that is in a moment. And that directly leads into the SEO juice, or some people call it link juice, things like that, right? Kind of a funny name, but it's a serious thing. The next thing is the actual choice of the hosting company and the quality of that hosting itself, right? That can affect things like site speed and actual performance of your website, as well as SEO performance, which a lot of people don't know anything about, and it's not really considered very often. The third thing is actually the quality of SEO and the experts behind the site that are working on the site to actually help further and grow that site into the future, rather than it staying stagnant, staying in the same place, or actually diminishing in value to the potential consumer, your potential clients, and diminishing in SEO value as well, right? There's certainly a huge value attributed to that business-wise that directly leads into revenue and how your business performs. So the first thing is redirects. Okay, so when you're transferring your website over to a new provider, right, you might have entered into a relationship or a contract, things like that. One thing to definitely take care of, first thing, is redirects. Okay, leading back into what you said about SEO juice or link juice as it's known. You want to make sure that everyone over the years in the past that has linked to your website can continue those links to your website. Okay, oftentimes when someone's building you a new site or transferring a hosting provider or just transferring over your data in general, you can lose those pre-existing links that helped you rank in the past, right? That helped you find pet owners, helped you rank for terms like veterinarian, animal hospital. These are the two biggest searches in the veterinary industry, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, vet near me. Maybe
Yeah,
go in there
absolutely.
too.
Vet near me. Lots of kind of key things, right? So everything that you ranked for in the past is very important to do proper redirects. I'm not going to go into like this technical side of redirects, okay? But what it means is that when you had a link to an old page on your site, we must absolutely, first thing is to transfer that link and redirect it properly. And there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. Again, not going to go into technicals, but I've seen lots of companies in my experience, when they transfer providers, they lose those links. And then later they're wondering, well, what happened to my rankings? They're gone. So the first thing is definitely doing proper redirects and having actual experts do that properly. For smaller sites, might not be such of a tall task, right? But for larger sites, let's say you had a blog, you had lots of different service pages, you had lots of different pages on your website, it can be quite a chore, and it has to be done absolutely properly, at least to rank in Google. And also, a lot of times you have referral partners and partnerships established too. So when those links don't work and then they get to an error page, what a disappointment, right? So bad user experience as well. So that's redirects. The second thing is definitely the choice of hosting company that your new provider is going to use, right? So for most companies, they don't have like their own host. They don't own a hosting company, right? You're usually relying on a third party or another company to do the hosting for you. And it's very crucial that they know what they're doing in terms of that, right? I'll give you an example. So there's different types of web hosting, right? Meaning the pages that are on your site, they're on the internet, they need to be hosted on a computer somewhere or a server, and then distributed on the internet to whoever requests that page, right? AKA your website visitors. What happens a lot of times is that some companies, they go with cheaper hosting for their clients. And what can happen there is what's called like shared hosting, things like that, where they have a bunch of different clients or a bunch of different websites, maybe some not even their clients, that are on that same hosting, right? So a lot of times they don't even know who some of these other third-party websites are.
Right, because they're buying only a portion of that server.
Exactly. And they want to save some money and things like that, but that's a huge mistake, right? You need premium hosting. Oftentimes you need something like, I would recommend hosting in the cloud on a cloud-based server, which is very fast and it's secured, or dedicated hosting, meaning your site is the only site on that particular server, and it's secure as well as fast because you're the only site on that server. What can happen, and I don't mean to use this as like a scare tactic, but I've seen companies do it before, is where they put your site on a server that's shared with disagreeable content types to Google, right? And I'm talking about gambling websites, I'm talking about potentially porn websites, I'm talking about cannabis websites and other controversial websites that Google doesn't rank very well, right? Just because they're on controversial topics, political websites and things like that.
Sure.
So by association, if your site's put on one of those servers that's shared with those other types of sites, your SEO value is definitely going down the drain. And a lot of people don't realize that, right? There's kind of a guilt by association aspect to it because Google is not only scanning through your web pages, identifying, hey, is this going to rank well? And there are certain techniques, and that all goes into SEO, but it's also looking at the quality of your hosting. And it's looking at the other sites that are on that same server or computer that's hosting all of those websites and the quality of that server, right? So
yeah,
naturally, if you think about it, right, a gambling website, porn website, controversial websites, if they're on the same server as you, well, that's not really going to look very good. And your rankings can tank out of nowhere. And a lot of times people wonder, well, where did all my rankings go? I used to rank #1 for vet near me. And we did all these things and we paid all this money, but the site's not going anywhere. And it can be that. The other side of that, in addition to kind of guilt by association and whatnot, can oftentimes be site speed. So if you're hosted on a really busy server with all these other sites, and you went with a company that can code out a website very well, and they make fast websites, fast loading websites, good user experience, it might look good, but it can definitely affect the page speed, meaning the speed at which pages load. So if you've ever went to a website and it's taken forever for that page to load, and you're wondering if you should call your internet company or not,
right.
A lot of times it could just be the hosting that's bad and cheap, right? And that's the direct result of that. So the choice of the hosting company, very big thing.
Well, I'm really grateful. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Carl.
Go ahead. Oh, the last thing is definitely the quality of service that you can expect after everything's transferred, right? So, my big thing is always hiring experts, right? And finding a reputable company that has a track record of success, right? So literally look at that company. Do their clients' sites rank well? And I'm not just talking about like their brand name, right? So
Yeah.
ABC Animal Hospital or anything like that. Like that's very easy to do. I'm talking about general search terms in your market, like veterinarian, animal hospital, vet near me, pet hospital, pet clinic, things like that, right? These big, broad searches that most people use to find your business when they're looking for a new vet or a practice. It could also go along with grooming or boarding, other services that you may provide as well. So the big thing is to hire the experts, find a reputable company with a good track record, literally proven results, and they can help you grow your website. And I literally mean adding new content. Big thing for us is blogs. That helps out tremendously. That also attracts links, like I was talking about, the links that give you the authority to rank well in your market relative to your competition. And just
Hey, tell this story real quick. I'm sure that tell the story about the blog. And I believe the blog it comes off of my why does my dog smell like fish?
oh, geez. Well, I guess there are some interesting topics, but these are topics that people actually search for, and a lot of the times they have high search volumes, right?
Right.
And I mean, I've got a million stories like that, right, where we've ranked people for topics that may not lead necessarily to direct revenue, but they lead to a lot of traffic coming to your site, and as a result of that, they lead to a lot of links going to your site by journalists,
Right.
other websites, and then you become the authority versus someone else, right?
You know?
And obviously that goes hand in hand with good content writing, good SEO, and the quality of service that you can expect from a company like InTouch or other reputable vendors, right?
Sure. Sure. And
So
to me, it's whether or not you're asking the right questions. And the questions that you just laid out there, Carl, are perfect. And if these conversations aren't happening at the forefront of a transfer, like, the assurance that we're going to take care of that. And, while some of these things might be taken for granted because we're professionals, and just like you, the veterinary professional, you don't necessarily feel the obligation to go into every piece of best practices. But if you were pushed and asked questions about whether or not you're going to do things in a certain way, you're quick to be able to articulate how important those things are. And I'm really, really grateful that we spent time together today, Carl, to talk about, something that I get asked about all the time. So, Carl, I could talk to you about this subject all day long. Obviously, you and I both geek out on the subject. And if you'd like to ask Carl any sort of questions, here, look, I'm going to open you up. Is it okay that I give out your home and your cell phone number, and in case they don't get you your girlfriend's cell phone number? Is that all good? No, in all seriousness, if you'd like to learn more about this or have the ability to work with a professional like Carl, please feel free to give us a call at 1-800-493-9003, or you can visit us on the web and learn a little bit more. It's InTouchVet.com. Once again, Carl, I think you're awesome. Thanks for all the great work. Thanks for putting our clients in touch with local pet owners that can actually bring their pets into the practice. And the difference you make in our organization and in practices nationwide is phenomenal. So I'm very, very grateful for you and your team. So thank you very much. Until next time, I thank you very much for watching the video, and we'll talk to you soon.